Hey guys, so surprise, I'm decided to do another video. Reason is because I just got done earlier today playing Nancy Drew Labyrinth of Lies, which in my opinion was a really good game. I would probably give it 5 Greek statues. Well, no, wait. Let's take that back. I'd probably give it about 8 Greek statues out of 10, just simply because it was really good. It was interesting because I know I gave you guys kind of a review of Shattered Medallion. It was kind of interesting. Shattered Medallion was kind of odd. It was just very different. It was just a very different kind of game. But Labyrinth of Lies, oh my gosh. Well, first off, Nancy Drew's back in the museum doing intern type things, or she starts out doing intern type things, just like in Secrets of the Scarlet Hand. But instead of Mayan, she's actually in Greece doing helping out helping out at a museum in Greece, which is really cool because I've always wanted to go to Greece. I always thought that would be a really fun place to go and visit. And so she gets there, and it's kind of interesting actually. And just as a heads up, this will have some spoilers in it. So if you guys don't want it to be spoiled for the review, then go ahead and click away on it. And because I don't want to spoil you guys if you haven't played the game yet. But okay, alright, let's go. So, Nancy Drew Labyrinth Lives. Nancy Drew in museum in Greece. She gets there, and it's like she hasn't even had a chance to get in the building yet, and already things are going weird. Like, because like the director in the museum has disappeared, and she leaves her notes. The director leaves Nancy notes, and Nancy has to read the notes and figure out what's going on. And she gets there, and it's like, and she reads through all these notes, and she's go, okay, what's going on? Well, actually, the first thing she does is she's walking, and there's like, here's a museum, and then you walk down this path, and then there's this huge, looks like a coliseum, looks like a old open air theater like they used to have back in the day. And she goes down there, she hears somebody cry for help, and she runs in there, and she sees 2 people, and she's like, hey, leave her alone. And the and the gal is like, oh, it's just rehearsal, we're okay. And you get to talk to her for a while, and her name's Xenia, which I love that name. That name is completely an awesome name. And you get to talk to her for a while. You find out that there's a play going on at the museum, and that she is doing one of the main roles in the play. And I kind of have to say, another thing that's kind of different about this game is, because usually in Nancy Drew games, you get like, you have like your people, your suspects, but they're all in separate locations. You never get to see them like together, especially more the classic games. It's like one person will be in the office, another person will be in like a little store that you go and visit and buy stuff at. Another person's out in the woods or whatever. That kind of thing. And it's like, where they're pretty much gonna be. And how they've done it in the past is like they'll have like one suspect who's just really grouchy or really snarly or whatever. And that suspect is one that you're supposed to think is the bad guy, is the culprit. And what usually happens is it ends up being like you get another suspect who's like really nice, really helpful, offers to help, offers to give you stuff for, like I'm thinking of the gal from Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. I cannot think of her name, but you go to her store, you have to do certain tasks for her, but then she helps you out. She like gives you stuff. It's like a trading system. It's like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, is basically what she says. And so she's the one and it turns out that she's the one who's the bad guy. She's the one who's trying to get the treasure that she thinks is buried in this house that Nancy's staying in, and that Nancy's friend has bought, and she basically wants to scare her off. So, it usually ends up being the nice one who's the bad guy or whatever. You kind of got away from that a little bit, or there were a few games where you weren't quite sure who the suspect was, because you had like a couple people who were nice. You had some people who you found out later had like secrets and stuff, but they weren't necessarily like bad secrets. They were just secrets like making a bad decision because of circumstances in their life or something. So anyway, I feel like I'm getting off track here. So anyway, in Labyrinth of Lies, big spoiler, again, big spoiler, you end up having essentially 4 suspects. And all the way through the game, it's like, I honestly had no idea. I honestly thought that it's like I kind of pinged on to the possibility that all 4 of them are going to be responsible for whatever it was that was going to be going down. And here's the thing: you find out right away from Melina, who's the director of the museum. You find out right away. She's very good as far as like bosses or people who communicate with Nancy, because there's some people games who are like authority figures for Nancy or that she's under that don't really communicate with her, that they don't really tell her what she needs to know. Melina is really good up until close to the end of the game, and there's a reason for that, and I'll get into that. But so you get in there, you already get a phone call from her right away after you meet the main gal. And the other nice thing is you normally know where most of the actors and actresses are going to be, because they're mostly either around the main stage area or they're backstage, or like the one guy in hang on, I have no idea. I just had a weird pop-up come up on my screen about getting OS Yosemite, which I may have to get. Only reason because I want to play. My boyfriend Keith plays Star Trek Online and some of those online games and stuff, and I tried downloading it and it wouldn't let me do it. It said I didn't have the right whatever. So I may have to upgrade that. Anyway, back to the review. So, but it's also kind of nice because usually in some of the more classic games, they're always in the same place. Like, you go to this, like, in Ghost Dark's Moon Lake, you go to the store, you find the one gal. You go to this little, cabin that's kind of, it's like an activities kind of type cabin, tells you about the woods and the surrounding area and all that and the history, and you find the park ranger. You go out into into the woods, into this little tree. You don't call it a tree house. It's like a bird watching platform. I forget what you call it. And you find another guy. Well, most of the time they're always in the same place. They don't move, which I always kind of thought was really unrealistic because, I mean, a person's not going to sit in one place for like all the time. I mean, if I were in an Nancy Drew game, yeah, sure, maybe 50-60% of the time, if Nancy came to talk to me, I'd be sitting at my computer in my room. But I would also be moving around. I might be up in the kitchen getting a bite to eat. I might be running around outside, running errands, or taking a walk, or whatever. So, I kind of like how in Labyrinth of Lies, like, the characters, while they have their own little assigned areas, are not always there. And I like that. I like that they're a little bit unpredictable in that way. And there's this part later on in the game, when you figure out that one of the four is, and this is really interesting because they actually really, they didn't try to hide who the main bad guy. Well, they did, but they didn't. It's hard to explain, but you basically go through the game, and there's this guy. Who's big and bulky, and he's tough, and he plays King of the Underworld, plays the god Hades, and he practically lives like in Greek plays. They had like a lot of lifts, and they had a lot of dramatic lighting and stuff like that, and it was all outdoors. So they're doing the same thing. These four people are doing the same thing. It's Xenia, Thanos, I can't think of the guy's name, but the Deetros or something like that, and Niobe. All Greek. They're all, and they all have different personalities and stuff. But this guy, Thanos, I mean, he's a tough guy. He practically, what you do is you quickly find out that there's a whole other world under the stage, and you almost kind of wonder how they're going to show that part of the play. Like, I don't know if they were gonna actually have their audience come down and like walk through and see everything. But that was really about the only part that I did not get. I didn't really understand how that was gonna work. But anyway, there's a huge set of like the underworld. Go in there. It's got Sharon and his boat, that ferries the dead across the river, and and they have Cerebus, and Cerebus is a puzzle, and he's like the first puzzle you get to when you get down to the underworld, and you have to deactivate him so he doesn't kill you. And you go through all these doors, and there's like little winding paths, and it takes you through different areas of the underworld and stuff. It's really pretty cool. And So anyway, I kind of lost track of what I was thinking. Oh, so there's this guy, and your phone contacts are the Hardy Boys this time, which I really like because I like Frank and Joe a lot. I think they're pretty awesome characters, and I kind of wish that they had more Hardy Boys games because I would play those too. Anyway, so what happens is, you get to talk to the Hardy Boys a lot, and you get to talk to Melina a lot, which I really like. Melina's like your boss, the director of the museum. You get to talk to both of them quite a bit, and they're actually pretty helpful, give you tips and hints and say, hey, talk to this person, blah, 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 blah. I'll do this, I'll get back to you, and they actually do get back to you in a reasonable time. Anyways, the Hardy Boys tell Nancy that Thanos is or has been associated with this Greek mafia called Kronos or something. Anyway, but what's really funny is you go through the game, you talk to each and every character, you kind of get ideas about. But what's funny is, instead of usually in the Nancy Drew game, you kind of end up like you have the one or two suspects that you suspect a lot until their secret comes out or until whatever, and then you're like, oh, these guys are okay, just because that's usually the tradition in Nancy Drew game. With this game, I mean, you do not know up until, matter of fact, it's like I kind of called it, because it was like all four of them were very close together, and not only do you get to, you don't really get to watch rehearsal, but you get to overhear some conversations that happened, and you also get to, in the office on the computer, they have a system where apparently the actors have recorded like their rehearsals and their walkthroughs and stuff, and so you get to get a lot of information from that, and you get a lot of the fact that they maybe don't get along as as well as they're playing it off that they do. And so, and there's other things like you get to read people's tablets that they leave out. You have to do puzzles in order to figure out how to get access to people's personal notes and stuff like that. And of course, since it's a theater, you end up having to do a lot of theater related and museum related tasks in order to do that. And I like the balance, because sometimes with Nancy Drew games, they either weigh very heavily on one thing or the other. Like, it can either be really heavy on you've got to get all your chores done at the place wherever you're at first, and then you can solve your mystery. Or it's very mystery orientated, and then they'll throw something at you, and you'll be like, why in the world do I have to do this? It was a very good balance between the chores and and they tied in together really well. The mystery plus what you were doing as the caretaker of the museum really tied in. It ended up meshing, which I really like. So basically, what happens is you eventually find out that, and I was really pleased because I kind of knew, even at the beginning, like as the game was progressing, I kind of had a feeling that all four of these actors and actors were in on something, and that it involved the missing artifacts and stuff, and involved, well, what it turned out that they were doing was Niobe was an artist, or she is an artist, but she made a huge mistake. She was trying to help a friend, and she assigned her friend's name to her work. And although she didn't really say, she doesn't really say in the game, but I kind of got the feeling like it was supposed to be some kind of a deal. Like, okay, I'll sign my name to, I'll sign your name to my work. I'll make these paintings, I'll send them out, and you eventually give me the credit for them, which never happened. And so now Niobe feels disgraced. She kind of lost her way there for a bit, and now they've got her making this. They've got her painting forgeries to replace certain vases, statues, paintings, necklaces, that kind of thing. And they're going to basically ship these. And what's really interesting is that Thanos has apparently gotten his connections with the Greek mafia, and they filled the seats of the theater, so there's going to be, it's like they're, and it's funny because in the game there's a couple references to Thanos wants to leave a message for a very important patron. And then when you read the sign and you read, it kind of clicks, and you're kind of like, oh, they're planning on stealing these artifacts and then probably selling them to Thanos' connections who will be in the theater. But I mean, of course, obviously they can't do it right there. So it'd be later on. But it'll still be a way of them getting to see what they're buying, to see what they're putting their money toward. So, actually, I really liked the game because even though I knew that, for sure that all four of the suspects were in on it together, I still liked them. And I was focusing, they did a really neat twist because I was focusing, they know so much. Matter of fact, one of the very first things Xenia tells Nancy is to watch out for Thanos, which, and everybody, all the other characters, are saying, watch out for Thanos, watch out for Thanos. He's a bad guy, and you're not thinking about Xenia. And then there's this one part in the game where, well, first off, Nancy gets into a little bit of a pickle when she gets locked in this cage on one of the sets. And she's all, she's focusing on Thanos because she thinks, okay, he's a bad guy, whatever, he locked me in the cage, he's blah, 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 blah. So she gets out of there, she escapes, and she basically trapped in the underworld, so you've got to do like several different little things in order to get back to normal and be able to get back up to the surface. Well, what happens is Um, like you walk into this one part of the set, and there's two doors. The one that goes to the bad part of the Greek underworld, and then there's a door that, as far as I'm aware, never opens. I could be wrong. I just never got a chance to open it. But you walk into the set, and there's another door that's supposed to go to, like, where our heaven would, where Christianity's heaven would be. But it's basically a place if you lived a really good life and all that, you go to rest and have your reward. That door never opens, and I would always go back. Whatever I was doing, if I was in the underworld, I was go and test the door to see if maybe something was, or if I got a key or something. I'd always try the key on the door. As far as I'm aware, it never opened. But, so anyway, there's this one part right in the middle between two doors, and there's three statues of gods, and they're the judges, and they basically judge your life and everything, deem if you're worthy to go to Ilium, or if they do to, or if you go to Tartarus. And so, you've figured that puzzle. You're finally able to do this puzzle, and you figure it out. And there's this little trunk that's been locked the whole entire time. And once you do that puzzle, the trunk unlocks. Well, you'll get one chance to look in the trunk, and then all of a sudden, the statue moves its head to look at you, and giant spirit comes falling down, whacks you. Well, Nancy wakes up, and she's in this other area of the underworld that is, it's apparently it's real fire because I tried walking Nancy across an area that didn't have any steps, and yeah, it was a game over. So apparently it's real fire. Anyway, Nancy wakes up, and she's chained. She's like locked to a throne, or locked to the throne of. I don't think I told you guys this, but the play they're doing is called Persephone in Winter. It's basically a retelling of the myth of Persephone, who's the daughter of Demeter, who's the goddess of the harvest. And Hades sees her and wants her as his bride, and instead of like courting her or asking her mother for a hand, he just decides to take her. Because why not? Me man, you woman, whatever. Anyway, so it's ironic because in part of the play that the actors and actresses are doing, Persephone is shown as being chained to her throne in the underworld, with Hades sitting next to her. And so, yeah, irony. My name is Nancy Drew. But anyway, Nancy gets out of it, of course. It's puzzles. And there were a lot of puzzles in this game, and they were a lot of fun. They were challenging. I had to use, I love how when you do, like, Amateur Sleuth, how will show you, like, hints and stuff. And, eventually it'll show you a solution to it. But it's like you can go to it first via hints, and you can try different things like that. Anyway, so what was really fun, and you get to, she gets herself unchained, and then she's got a problem in the fact that she's got to get back. Well, there's stairs apparently. If you do something, you solve, of course, the puzzle. You get to go. You get to, there's steps that'll raise up, and you can walk across it, and you won't get burned by the fire. So Nancy has to solve a few puzzles and all that, and she eventually manages to get out there. There's this one puzzle. You get to the door of the place, and it's locked, and you have to go through this long, complicated puzzle where you have to put in seeds. Because part of the myth of Persephone is that she basically, she was forced to stay down in the underworld and be Hades' queen. Well, what happened is that Hermes, well, in the version that I remember, it was Hades who tricked her. Because Demeter was like, don't eat anything, don't drink anything, and we'll come and get you out. What happened was Hades knew that if she ate or drank anything, she would have to stay. Well, he gave her a pomegranate. And a pomegranate has all these little bitty seeds. And so she ate, I think it's like 4 seeds or something. She eats like she doesn't eat all the seeds, but she eats like a certain amount of seeds. And by the time, I think it's Hermes that comes down to the underworld to get her and bring her back. And Hades is like, you're too late, she's eaten. And Hermes looks at the fruit and goes, yeah, but she's only eaten, there's still 4 seeds left or whatever. And so eventually Hades and Demeter or Zeus come to a compromise, and they're like, okay, I'll have her for 6 months out of the year, and she'll be allowed to return topside to her mother for 6 months out of the year, which is Greek's version of why we have fall and winter and spring and summer. Which I always thought was a really cool myth. I always thought that was just kind of interesting. But anyway, so, it is puzzling. It is puzzling. There will be some parts where you're going along and you won't be able to do something with a puzzle, or you will do a puzzle and you're not really sure what the purpose is of the puzzle. But it all ties in, which I really like. And so, anyway, so what basically happens is, you're going along, you're thinking, okay, Thanos is a bad guy, he's got all the others cowed, and maybe Xenia doesn't know about it, because she's just acting like, your normal director, your normal, whatever. And even one of the other actors, writes in his tablet that he's looked up stuff about her, and that apparently what her story is in fact the truth. And so you're going along and you think, oh, it's Thanos. When you wake up, chained to Persephone's throne, you see Xenia waiting for you, and she explains to you that she's the main villain. She's the one who's behind everything. She hired Thanos to be kind of the muscle to her brains. And they've got Niobe and Demeter? I think it's Demeter. They've got them both cowed. They got them both under their thumbs, due to really bad circumstances in their life, really bad choices that the other two have made. Anyway, so what happens is, after you escape out of there, you hear a little thing that says, "Mission is over, please return to your seats." And it takes you a while. And that's the other funny thing, though, is because there's this part where after you get out of the cage, you're just kind of wandering around the underworld. There's this part where it's like nothing's happening. You're just kind of wandering around the underworld, trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? And then all of a sudden, it's like, bam, it goes from 0 to Mach 50 in about 3 seconds, and all of a sudden you've got all this stuff to do, and you've got all these puzzles to complete, and and you've got to get back up to the top and everything. So you finally finish all the puzzles. You finally are able to get back up on the lift. And it's funny because it switches to, usually in Nancy Drew game, it's coming from Nancy's perspective, so it's like you're Nancy and you get to see, it's like first person perspective. But it switches to third person perspective, and it's at the very end, and you're like watching somebody who's watching the play, and everybody's on stage doing their thing, and all of a sudden the lift comes up and Nancy, but it's funny because they never show her, they have yet to show her face, and I doubt if they ever will, because that kind of ruins the mystery of who she is and everything. But anyway, she rises and shows her from the back, and then she starts announcing what she's been able to find out, and she's been like blah 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 blah, and the two, Demeter and Niobe, are relieved, but they're also really sad because they are going to have to go to prison, or to be punished for their part in the crime. But Xenia and Thanos, well, Thanos, again, big spoiler, Thanos escapes. And so he's still out there, he's still on the loose. Xenia, I believe, from what I remember, she gets caught. She has to stay in prison. And Demeter goes to prison, but he's one of those, he's trying to turn his life around. And Niobe gets put on probation, and she starts painting again, which I think is really cool. So, anyway, what do I think of this game? I think this game is very awesome. It is. It's got to mix all the right things. It's got action in it. It's got periods where you're having to talk to people, and it's got parts where you have to do your chores, where you have to do museum related stuff. Like I said, the museum related stuff is in very well with the mystery. It becomes integral. You have to do your museum stuff in order to solve the mystery, or to figure out what's going on. And I mean, the locations are awesome. I mean, I could have spent hours just wandering around the underworld. I mean, and each and every set was like different, was like amazingly depicted. The only thing I wish I could have done is I wish I could have gone into the heaven part, into the I think you say the Elysium. Into the Elysium. And maybe there is a way. Oh, and the other thing, and I don't know if I missed this or if it's incredibly necessary, but there's this part toward the end where, well, you're in the cage and Demeter comes in and Nancy's like, get me out of here, help me. You don't have to do this. You don't have to go down this path. And Demeter's like, I am terrified of Thanos. He will kill me. He will, I can't be caught helping you. But he says he'll leave something for you with the fairy. And so he takes off, and then later on you find, well, you also find a seal. Oh no, it's not Demeter, it's Grigas. Grigas is his name. I don't know why I was thinking a D name. Anyway, Grigor. So you find a seal that belongs to him, and I don't think I ever used that, and you only get it in like the last half of the game, so I'm not really sure what the purpose is for it. I tried looking up online and I couldn't get anywhere with it, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But I really like the game. I totally give it a thumbs up. I think it is, like I said, it has pretty much everything in it that you need, and it's got a nice balance of pretty much everything, action and doing like the normal, somewhat boring stuff. All ties in together, and nice twist with Xenia being the one who's actually the main villain and actually the one in charge of everything. So I really like it. I highly recommend you guys go get it and play it if you play it. They have it for both, of course, both Windows and Mac. And yeah, I mean, it's just good. It took me, I'm trying to remember, I don't usually keep track of how long it takes me to finish a game, just because, and I did use a lot of spoilers, and I did use the little question marks that pop up next to, but there were some of them that up and I couldn't get a question mark next to them, and it was just like I just had to kind of wander around and try to figure out what it was. But I like that because those parts were not only few and far between, but they also tied in well with the story. There was a reason why they didn't give you any clues for it, and something that I could figure it out for myself, or just something that needed a certain point in time in order to do that. Oh, and that was the other thing. Because there are some games out there where you have those periods of time where you can't talk to anybody on the phone. You, where you just wander around and you're just like, I don't know what to do. And for the most part, the game flowed very seamlessly. It was very much, this is what you need to do, now this is what you need to do. I mean, there were a couple short periods where I wandered around and looked at things, and but it's like there was enough stuff that hadn't been activated yet that I could go and look at and see, okay, is this activated now? And then, yeah, so it was good. It was definitely good. And the next game that's coming out, apparently Nancy Drew goes to Iceland, and it's like a myth kind of type thing. It almost looks like it's relatable to Ransom of the Seven Ships, but it's like about a ghost ship or something that shows up in like Iceland or something, and there's a myth attached to it, so it sounds like it would be really good. So anyway, that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, so I will talk to you guys later.